everyone thinks they know what good mental health is. I spent years in therapy and going in and out of mental hospitals, and all of it just made me way, way, way worse. I spent years with their fake mental health practice. So today, we're going to teach you the one secret that no one knows about how to get great mental health. But we're not going to make you wait till the end of the video. It's practice. Practice, practice, practice. You know, Jay's favorite answer to pretty much everything that he preaches nonstop. And if I was going to divorce him over anything, it would be that. I mean, just kidding. Love you. But you will have to wait to the end of the video to find out why he preaches that practice is the answer to great mental health. So, Jay, I hated practicing piano, practicing tennis, and dance when I was a kid. Why should I practice good mental health now as an adult?
Well, why practice anything? Why practice walking when you're a toddler? Why practice card making skills or new techniques that you find from Etsy or something?
Oh, so I can improve my skills, so I can be better.
Yeah, basically, the answer to why should I practice is to be better, to get better results, to live better.
Okay.
If I suck at communication and I'm using so many ums and ahs in my speech, if I practice, what will I get?
Less ums and ahs.
Yeah, and better communication and better results.
Yeah.
If you're terrible at makeup, what would you do?
Practice to get better.
Right. So the answer to your first question, why should I practice mental health? Hopefully the answer is pretty obvious.
Well, I guess to get better mental health, to get good mental health, I have to practice it. But, well, what if we don't know how?
Well, we'll get there.
Okay.
But the foundation is why practice? To live a better life, to get better results at something.
Okay.
Remember when you started playing League of Legends?
Yes. Yeah.
You remember your first games?
Yes.
Could you even move the little character around?
No.
Would it go where you wanted it to go?
No. And no.
And what was happening with the mouse cursor on the screen?
It went all over the place. It wasn't going where I wanted to. I wanted to go here, and it would like go this way. It was awful. Yeah.
Right. And once you practice moving your character around, did you start magically winning games, or did you have to practice something else first?
I had to practice last hitting because then I couldn't get stuff in the store to get stronger to beat the enemy because I was weak, and then I didn't have any gold. So I had to master that.
Right. In your league journey, you started out knowing nothing, and when you first tried it, you got poor results.
Yes.
It would have been easy to give up there when the character's not moving the way you want.
Right.
But what did you do to solve it?
I kept practicing.
Yeah. And then now you could finally move your character around, but you still kept losing. And it would be easy to give up there.
Yeah.
But what did you have to do?
Practice.
Exactly. And once you got the hang of moving your character around and last hitting to get items, and you did it with misfortune, and then your son picked misfortune and you couldn't pick her, what did you then have to do?
I had to practice another champ.
Practice again. Yeah. Practice another champion.
Yeah.
So most of society does everything they can to avoid practice. They want to hire someone to do the work for them. They want to automate it with a robot or an AI. They don't want to practice getting better at a skill.
No.
They want to farm it out. But really, in your life, every time you get better results, it involved a little bit of
practice.
Yeah. And with something as important as mental health, do you think this is a place to farm out your practice? This is a time to delegate your practice, your personal mental health, try to find some shortcut? Or is this something that really absolutely should have practice prioritized?
To answer your question, this should definitely have practice prioritized. Okay. So I 100% agree. And we're probably going to discuss this later in the podcast, but I think a lot of people don't see these things as practicable.
Fair enough. I mean, that's a whole other can of worms. But before we can talk about whether it's practicable or not, we have to agree that the ideal that we want to reach for here is practice, if possible.
Yes.
But a lot of people don't do that. They don't even think about practice. They're not sitting there at home thinking, man, mental health is something I really want to practice and get better at, just like walking, talking, League of Legends, football, other important things in my life. they just think, oh, that's probably not practicable. It's probably not something you can practice. So why bother? It's like, this is not the right attitude or approach. Okay. And if you're already thinking, oh, it's not practicable, you're already off base, right? You don't, someone who truly wants better results at something is looking for a way to practice, not automatically writing off practice.
And I think because most therapists, support groups, and doctors aren't teaching people that they can practice mental health. They teach them that they either go sit down and talk about it with other people or take a pill, and these things will improve your life. Nowhere do they really say the word practice. And even if you do find a therapist or support group or doctor who encourages exercises or encourages reading or encourages you to do something else outside of the box, the word practice is not at the top of the list as recommended help for people with mental health issues.
Sure. And it makes sense. They're all in business. And in business, it's best practice to give people what they want, give them what they'll buy, give them what they like, give them what they're seeking, give them what they're searching for. And what are people searching for? Are they searching for practice as a cure, as an approach to solving their mental health? No. They're searching for shortcuts. They're searching for automation. They're searching for delegation. They're searching for a way to farm out their mental health. They do not want responsibility for their mental health, and they don't want control over their mental health. They want someone else or some medicine or some therapist to have control over their mental health. They want to delegate this. And so for all of these therapists, doctors, and support groups to stay alive and keep going and make money, their main income stream is selling shortcuts to people who are looking for shortcuts. It's not in the audience's field of view to seek out practice, and it's not in the business's field of view to serve up practice. So I get it. I don't blame them. All the poor mental health people aren't seeking practice, and all the mental health practitioners know practice won't sell, so neither of them are doing it. Nobody's touching it. It's like the nuclear topic, radioactive topic. Do not talk about, do not touch, do not approach, do not seek. But what do you get when you're avoiding like the number one cure, right? The number one thing to get better results in your life in any area, as we've just gone over, is
practice.
Right. So if you treat practice like it's radioactive and you need to avoid it, what kind of results are you going to get from life?
Yeah, not good ones.
Yeah. How's your mental health going to stay?
No, it's going to stay the way it's always been or worse.
Yeah.
Well, now you see a little bit of what I get for any question. No, but you're right. You're right. I tease you all the time about it, but it's true. Practice is the way. So, Rise Rebels, I want to know what you think about practice. Do you think that mental health is something we can practice? And what is your version of practicing mental health? I'd love to know. Leave it in the comments, please, so we can open a discussion between us and you and those quiet little lurkers who are watching and listening and not saying anything. We love you. Okay, well, you've taught me that consistent practice is really important when you're trying to practice something, right? So I've had consistent shitty mental health. Does that count as consistent practice?
You laugh. And it sounds funny, but isn't the truth that we're all consistently practicing something? Like, some people are practicing being mobile and exercising and walking and working out. But what is a couch potato practicing?
Couching.
Yeah, they're practicing staying still.
Yeah.
They're practicing lethargy and apathy and immobility. Make sense?
Yeah. Okay, that does make sense.
And some people practice cooking or chefing or cuisine or culinary arts. But what about a super busy CEO? What do? Do they spend a lot of time cooking?
No.
If they're a successful CEO, what are the chances that they have a personal chef or they eat fast food in restaurants all day?
That's more likely, yeah.
Do you think those CEOs could even find the utensils in the kitchen? Do you think they'd know what to do if food was going bad or going wrong or burning or whatever? Or would they actually be paralyzed?
They would probably be paralyzed. I mean, it took you 20 minutes to find honey in our kitchen when I was gone yesterday.
There you go. But there was a time when I was practiced at cooking.
Right.
I was quite good at it.
I know.
But I stopped practicing that and I started practicing what?
CEOing.
Yeah. And I practiced delegating my culinary needs.
Yeah.
I practiced hiring chefs. I practiced partnering up with people. I practiced anything to avoid cooking.
Yeah. You practice calling takeout and walking to the store or walking to the restaurant and picking it up.
Yeah. And then I knew all the best restaurants and I was quite practiced at it.
You did.
You see?
Okay. So I get what you're saying.
And I'll give a third example. Some optimistic people practice positivity and seeing the silver linings.
Yeah.
But aren't there some members of your family or old friends from school who practice something else?
I definitely practiced negativity before you and I met for many years. And I surrounded myself with people who were great at practicing negativity.
Right. So you practiced pessimism while other people are practicing optimism.
Yes.
If you eventually one day stop practicing pessimism and start practicing optimism, what do you get rusty at?
Pessimism.
Yeah. It goes away and you forget how to do it.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah, that makes sense.
like I forget how it is to be pessimistic about things. Like I've been practicing optimism for quite a while.
Yes, you have. Yeah.
It's actively difficult for me to take a pessimistic view of anything.
In almost 5 years we've been together, I've said that doesn't matter the topic, whatever I say about it, you will always spin it positively. It doesn't matter. I've never met anyone more positive. I don't think that if I said to you, say something negative about so-and-so or such and such, I don't think you'd be able to.
Yeah. But during my dark, homeless hell years, I was a bit more pessimistic and I was practicing something different. And it was quite easy for me to see the dark side of things.
Right.
So the question is, aren't we all always consistently practicing something?
Yes. Now that we phrase it like this and you give the examples, it makes 100% sense. I was practicing how to eat unhealthy for many years and make my body fat. And now I'm practicing how to eat healthy and make my body thinner. And before I was practicing being a mean, hateful hag to the whole world. And now I'm practicing being love and light and happiness to the world.
Yeah. And you practiced using for many years and then you practiced sobriety for many years.
Yes. And if you look at my arms, you'll see I was really bad at practicing.
But I've also noticed a lot of those scars and track marks disappearing.
Yes, they have.
Yeah, because when you practice something new, you get different results.
Yeah, that's true.
So your question, is my practicing shitty mental health for a long time count as practice? What's the answer?
The answer is yes.
Yeah, it does.
Yes. I was joking. It was a funny question, but I thought you were going to say something totally different. But you're right. I was practicing poor mental health.
And so is everybody else with poor mental health.
Yeah. Y'all.
Because
we're practicing.
You're always practicing something. It might be a struggle or difficult to practice a new thing. Yeah. I'm not arguing with that. Yeah. But you don't get to escape. Life isn't like that. You don't get to not practice something. You're either practicing the positive thing or the negative thing. The thing you want or the thing you don't want. The thing you desire or the thing you don't desire. And practice has momentum. So the further you practice using heroin, the more difficult it becomes to what?
To practice not using it.
Right. The further you practice eating junk food and unhealthy food, the more difficult it becomes to what?
To practice eating healthy.
Right. The further and longer and deeper and more intensely you practice negative mental health or poor mental health, the more difficult it becomes to practice what?
Good mental health.
Right. So people need to change now. I don't need to hear excuses. I don't need to hear any of that. I don't care how hard it is. Like no matter how far you've gotten down this dark path, no matter how long you've practiced poor mental health, no matter how many setbacks you've had, if you practice it further, you're only making it harder on yourself. It will never get easier. Never. Unless you take control, put your heart into it and start practicing the opposite.
Right.
Even if you fail, you have to practice the opposite. The couch potato, his getting up from the couch will never get magically easier for him. No. It will just get harder and harder as his muscles atrophy.
Yeah.
So he's practicing immobility and he will get quite good at immobility.
Right.
So what's his only option? Die on the couch or start
moving towards getting up.
Yeah, start practicing the opposite.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. So we're all always practicing something. We're either practicing the unwanted thing or we're practicing the wanted thing. In your life and in anyone's life, what is a wiser, healthier, better, more fulfilling thing to practice? Practice the unwanted thing that sucks and that we don't want and we hate, or make a big life change and start practicing its opposite, the wanted thing.
No, practice the wanted thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I know that when you're on the negative side and you're doing the thing you don't want to do, sometimes it feels easier to practice that. I mean, we don't even.
Oh, it's definitely
most of
easier.
us-
That's what I meant about momentum.
Yeah.
It gets easier and easier. And if you practice eating healthy or staying sober, it just gets easier and easier.
It does.
So like, this is a fact. It will become easier and easier, whatever you're practicing. If you're practicing health, it might be hard at first, but it will get easier and easier. And soon it will be crazy easy and no one can make you go back to unhealthy.
Right.
If you're practicing using drugs, it will get easier and easier to use those drugs. And pretty soon, no one will convince you back to staying clean.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I 100% agree with you. But when people bring this up, I kind of laugh. Like, I'm like, yeah, if you drive a car down one road, it will go further and further down that road. Then you'll be far from home.
Right.
If you drive it down the opposite road, it will get further and further down that road.
Right. Well, yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Like, I don't care how far you get down that road. You got to turn the car around sometime.
Right.
Or follow it to your death. Like, I don't know. Everyone's allowed to die. You want to die from drug use or couch potato? Go ahead.
Well, what I was going to say was, even though it's easier to do that negative thing that we don't really want to do, and we keep doing it because it's easier. Like, you know, I'm going to start my diet tomorrow. And then tomorrow comes and they don't do it because it's easy to stay in that negative side, but it takes a lot of guts and a lot of balls and a lot of personal responsibility to stand up and say, I want to be healthy and I want to be thin. So today I'm going to take the step. It's so much harder because you're farther away on the spectrum of practice for the negative thing than the positive. But as you do it, like you said, the more you eat healthy and work out and go to the gym, it just gets so easy. Same with getting clean. Like those first couple days when you don't use, it's the first 24 are the worst. And then the first 3 are just the worst. But every day, every hour that goes by that you move closer to the thing you really do want, even though it's difficult, it feels better. And then it gets easier and easier. Now I'm 16 years in. Like I have 16 years clean time. So to me, it's like cakewalk.
Sure, because it got easier.
Yeah.
Because you did the hard part.
Yeah.
That's the reward. You do the hard part and it gets easier and easier. Or you get the opposite reward. You don't do the hard part and it gets worse and worse, harder and harder. And you're on some super dark path.
Yeah.
You can practice scarcity or practice abundance. For most people born into scarcity and taught by the world to be scarce, it's just easier to think poverty thoughts. It's just easier to think limitation thoughts. It's easier to think lack thoughts. It's easier to think, oh, woe is me thoughts. It's easier to think victim thoughts. It's easier to think, okay, well, it's easier. Fine, keep going down that road and watch how dark your thoughts get and watch you start manifesting crap in your life and watch until you die. Or practice the opposite. Think a happier thought. Think a more plentiful thought. Think a more abundant thought. There's no limit on thoughts. No one's stopping you from thinking those things. You can try a little bit more. And it doesn't have to be super positive. If you're way down the negative road, you might just think, well, at least I can enjoy this Starbucks. This isn't like a super wealthy thought and you still feel shitty about your life and you're still in poverty mode or whatever. But you showed a tiny hint of abundance there. There's nice things around. I actually invested one of them. Even if it wasn't the best spending of my money, I feel good. I'm glad I got this.
Yeah.
Oh, an abundant thought in all the poverty. You just have to practice more of those,
yes.
right? And keep turning it up. It's hard, but it gets easier. This is all practice. The thing is, most people are unconsciously or subconsciously or by default practicing the unwanted thing. And then they get unwanted results. And that makes total sense to me. And if they refuse to practice the wanted thing, I have zero sympathy. You didn't come to Earth to just lay around, delegate your practice and your mental health to a bunch of pills and put zero effort into practicing the positive side of things. I've changed a lot of things about myself in my life, and every single time I made a gutsy, courageous choice to stop going down one road and to start going down another one. It's always tricky at that fork in the road or to turn around from way down a very dark path, but it's always fulfilling. It always gets easier and it always brings results. Happens in every single area of my life. I defy anyone else to try it and show me otherwise.
Yeah, 100%. We have complete and total control over our emotions and our thoughts and our actions. And those are the things that's all practice too. Like that's all practice. And to have good mental health, you just got to commit to that. So thank you. And also thank you because you taught me how to do that. And I appreciate that. So Rise Rebels, What are you practicing now that is taking you down that path of negativity that you really want the other side, the positive side? What's that thing that you're practicing that you want to flip that and start practicing the positive side of that? Please share it in the comments so we can support you and help you and love you, because we believe in you and we know you can do it. And you'll inspire all the other people that are watching and not commenting too, because they deserve our love as well and support. Yay! So you used to tell me to practice all the time, different things. And I always said I did. And I did sometimes, but sometimes not so much. And then when I would have a weak or crappy practice, I would beat myself up over it. And I would feel really bad. So how can we not beat ourselves up over a shitty practice or a weak practice that we have?
Great question. But first, what happens in our life when we lie to others or ourselves about our practice? What happens when we are dishonest about our practice?
Well, then we manifest the thing that we don't want, and it affects our whole life, and everything goes to shit for us. But I feel like that may not be the answer you're looking for.
No, that's about right.
Okay.
If a couch potato claims he wants to get healthy and fit and active, and he tells others that he's on a mission to do that, and then the people in his house are like, okay, great, cheering him on, supporting him, and then they leave for work, and the couch potato stays on the couch the entire day, or gets up once for a bag of Cheetos and then never moves again. And when his family returns home, they ask, oh, how did practice go? Because they're supporting him.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, it went fantastic. I jogged, I did sit-ups, I did back bends, I did jumping jacks. And instead of sitting all day, I used the stand-up desk.
So he lied like a rug.
Right. What happens to him and his life?
It just gets worse. It continues because now he's added lying on top of the negative practice of that thing. And so he's just getting worse.
And what has he learned about lying that it can get him out of?
I guess him out of conversations
Right.
that make him feel bad.
Right. So the conversation that makes him feel bad is one of the things that could turn him around on his road. Getting pressure from family and wake-up calls from family and having those hard conversations, it's something that could actually nudge you over to actually getting up.
Yeah.
But by lying, he found a way.
To not have to deal with that pain.
Right.
Yeah.
And so now, not only is he practicing couch potato-ness and immobility, but he's also practicing something else. He's practicing avoiding anything that will turn him around.
Yeah.
He's practicing avoiding mobility, and he's practicing avoiding a kick in the ass, avoiding a wake-up call.
Yes.
You see what happens?
Yes.
So what happens when we lie to ourselves or others about our practice? We rob ourselves of...
You rob yourself of improvement. You rob yourself of the practice.
And especially wake-up call.
Wake-up call. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you're now practicing two terrible things.
Mm-hmm.
You're practicing the original terrible thing, and you're practicing avoiding anything that might pull you out of the original thing.
Right.
Because your supportive family and the hard conversations will pull you out of the original thing. Yeah. He's like, no, man. I don't got time for these conversations. I just want to sit, eat my Cheetos in peace, and have no one bother me. It's like, dude, you had people cheering on your new positive practice.
Yeah.
So I've encouraged you to practice many things that you tell me you want. I take you at your word. I'm like, she says she wants this, and then I do everything I can to help you practice it. You want to practice tooth health? Here's all the resources in the world. Yeah. But if you don't practice dental health and you go and avoid it and, I'll just get by on this and get by on that. And don't worry, I did it. I totally did it. And you're lying. Not only are you practicing poor dental health, you're also practicing avoiding the
wake-up call.
Yes. Yeah. The thing that will actually turn you around on the dental health. And so now you're going down a super dark path and there's nothing that can pull you off track. And you've made it so anyone who might want to pull you off track absolutely can't. Right. How could they possibly? You're lying all the time.
Yeah.
Same happens with a drug addict using. They're using and they're practicing using and they're practicing addict behavior. But as soon as they start lying about their drug use, oh no, I only hit it once today.
Yeah.
Oh, good for you. Good for you. And then people support you and it avoids the hard conversation. And now you don't even have wake-up calls left.
Right.
So that was the first issue. The second half of your question, how do we avoid beating ourselves up? Well, when you were a toddler learning to walk, you fell many times, skinned your knee, bumped your head, all kinds of hard knocks. Did you beat yourself up for those?
No.
You cried for like what?
We cried because it was like
It hurt.
It hurt, or it scared us, or like we thought we were supposed to cry or whatever. Yeah.
And you might cry because I wanted it by now. I thought I would have it by now. But are the toddlers actually beating themselves up with a mental voice?
No.
With an inner voice? No, because they learned that from their parents beating them up for failure. But they don't start with that failure voice. So when we're all learning to walk, we're getting some major setbacks and some major failures, and we might be frustrated that it hasn't happened yet, but it's always a brief cry, a brief tantrum, and then we're back on our grind, and we're not beating ourselves up at all.
Right.
And do kids learn fast when they're young?
Yes.
I wonder why they learn so fast. I wonder why they only need to practice a little bit before they get it. Could it be that their practice is pure and pristine and unmarred by negative self-talk and beating ourselves up and so on?
Yeah.
I wonder if that plays a role in how effective their practice is.
Yes, it does.
Right. So we start out practicing well, learning quickly, getting fast results, with the main factor being not beating ourselves up for anything. And as time goes on, we start adding more and more of that beat myself up voice, that negative self-talk during our practice.
Right.
And what happens to our learning? How fast do we develop and grow then?
It slows it down.
Yeah, absolutely. You can undo tons of practice just by beating yourself up after a session.
Yeah.
So the question I have now is why? Why would anyone do this? If you were crushing it with practice early and you knew how to fall while you were walking and learn from it and have a tiny little cry and then get right back to practice, achieving super fast results, why start beating yourself up halfway through life? Like, I mean, I get why it happens. Parents train us and we start repeating by osmosis the patterns they set for us or whatever. But now that we're adults and able to make our own decisions, why would anyone continue doing this?
I have no idea. I did it for years.
But you do it or have done it as an adult.
Yeah, I still work. This is something I'm still working on right now, actually.
So my question is, like, that sounds insane to me.
Well, that's why I asked the question. So,
No, but you must be getting something out of it. Do you get what I'm saying?
Do I get something out of beating myself up?
Because, so if I say...
I mean, I'm a masochist, but not to that point.
If I say you should use this sponge to clean the dishes, it's better. Mm-hmm. And then you see someone using it and it seems to do better. And then you think back to when you were a kid or toddler and your family did have that sponge and it did do better. Mm-hmm. And so every sign on earth is logically pointing to use the new sponge. Mm-hmm. And then you go use the old one and your dishes take twice as long and you're late for whatever and there's still food on them and like your life's just not great. And you want the good results of the clean dishes, but you still refuse to use the sponge. I'm left there thinking, like, what are you getting out of it? Why are you clinging to the old sponge? Like, I don't understand.
So I'm going to
must be getting something out of it for beating yourself up.
It's my comfort zone. Like, the sponge fits my hand. I already know how many squirts of soap that sponge needs. I already know, like, how long the soap is going to last, how many dishes I can do with that sponge.
I agree with you.
So these are the reasons why I hold on to the sponge.
Sure. But all those things you already know lead you to results you already know. You're going to get the same shitty results from the same ghetto sponge. Yeah. The things you don't know lead to a result that's a million times better.
Yeah.
So yes, you don't know, I don't know, but you know the result and you've seen it and you know it. And as a toddler, you wouldn't beat yourself up. So adopting the new sponge puts you in situations you might not know, but it also delivers results you've never known before.
True.
So like, what are you getting out of it? So it sounds to me like you're getting comfort out of this one and shit results.
Yes.
And this one, you're getting discomfort and epic results.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you make it sound like it's very easy to do. And it's so simple to like not beat yourself up over this stuff and to just like let stuff go.
Well, what you're getting out of beating yourself up is comfort, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Because it's out of my comfort zone to talk. I mean, not now, but before, it was out of my comfort zone to be positive and like supportive of myself in my head. Like, it's one thing in front of you or other people or whatever, but when it comes down to really what we tell ourselves when we're alone. So I would say things like, well, that new sponge doesn't understand me. The old sponge Health sponge gets me and understands me and it feels comfortable. And I know I have to do extra dishes for it. And I have to scrub a little harder. And I have to like work on it a little bit more to have great results. But it's worth it because I am loyal to that old spawn. I am loyal to that. And that's what I know. And this is who I am.
Sure. So then it just comes down to, what does every human being prefer? Do you prefer comfort or do you prefer the epic new result? If you prefer an epic new result, so talk nice to yourself during practice, because as a child, that's how you got great results. If you prefer comfort, keep beating up on yourself. I don't care. You'll get shitty results and I'm not going to hire you for my company, but
well, the thing is, if you continue to beat up on yourself, you'll never get to the positive result that you want.
No, but you will get comfort.
And even though you continue to practice, you're like, but I'm practicing. But if you're beating yourself up over it,
you get shit results from your practice.
You're just spinning your wheels. You're not going forward. You're not going backwards. You're just like the hamster in the wheel, and you're just going around and around and around and around. Because you have to speak positively to yourself to improve, and you have to improve those results and get over the comfort. Because of comfort, I'm sorry, but I love you all, and I know what it's like to chase that comfort zone because it feels right and it feels good, and like it gets me, and this is where I feel safe. Fuck that. Sorry, I don't mean to curse, and I'm not a potty mouth, but I just want you to understand that your comfort zone is killing you. It is literally killing you slowly.
Yeah, that was fire. And the cherry on top of this lesson piggybacks off the last thing we talked about. Mm-hmm. You're always practicing something.
Yeah.
So if someone is beating themselves up for each practice session, what are they practicing?
They're practicing beating themselves up.
Yeah. And if we practice beating ourselves up, we start going further down that road and it gets
worse.
And
it gets harder to go back.
Yeah, it gets harder to go back and it gets easier to beat up on yourself.
Yeah, it gets easier to beat up on yourself and it gets worse as like you feel worse, your life gets worse. And I'm a really positive person now and I'm a loving, kind person now. But I used to tell myself things that I would never tell my worst enemy. And I've said some mean stuff to people when I was angry and hurt. But you don't deserve to speak to yourself like that. You don't deserve anyone to speak to you shitty and in a poor way. Because if you did, you wouldn't take it from them. So taking it from yourself is just going to cause more damage than some stranger saying it to you. So please stop now.
And I agree with you. The thing is, when you're really far down one of these roads and you've been practicing something unhelpful for a long time, you have to do a process that I call walking it back. You have to baby step it back. You have to walk it back.
Yeah.
And to walk it back feels crazy hard because you're already far down that road and you've got a long journey ahead of you and blah, blah, blah. But it has to be done.
Yes.
When is it easier to cut out a cancer? Like when it's grown and taken over your whole body, or when it's a tiny little mole?
Tiny little mole, yeah.
Right. So the sooner you start walking it back, the better.
Yeah.
The thing is, with beating yourself up or anything really, the start of walking it back just looks like more negativity. Yeah. It doesn't actually look like that miracle happiness, like, oh, I've started not beating myself up. Yeah. It looks like negativity. But instead of saying I'm an eternal failure, you said I'm a long time failure.
Yeah.
And it's like, that does not sound great. Most people would be like, dude, you got to be more positive. That's not it. But you would know, no, I used to call myself an eternal failure. Now I just call myself a long time failure. And then the next time you're like, you know what? Everybody fails. I'm just like everyone else. And it's like, whoa, now we're getting somewhere. But you got to baby step it back. And you might forget sometimes. And you might go back to calling yourself an eternal failure. And then you might go back to calling yourself a long-time failure. But then you'll make it back to, oh, everyone's a failure and I'm just like everyone else. Like, it's a journey, right? You might 2 steps forward, 1 step back, whatever. But you got to keep at it, right? You got to keep making the journey. No one else can make it for you. And
it's true.
If you ever want to get to the positive result and be like the people you look up to who are not beating themselves up and who do speak positively to themselves, you got to keep walking it back. And you got to take those baby steps until you get to neutral. And then soon you're like a little bit positive. And if you keep it up, eventually you're super positive and supportive of yourself during your practice. And the same goes for practicing any unhelpful thing. You got to walk it back to a helpful version.
Agreed. That's a fresh view on taboos that no one likes to talk about. Just like our book, Eyes Wide Open, Volume 1. And look, there's a page on practice right here, just for you. This is the world's first self-help coffee table book, and we are giving it away for free in a PDF form. The link is in the description to help you keep your eyes wide open. So I thought practice was for football or piano or taekwondo. How in the hell do we practice good mental health?
Yeah, that confused me for a while too. First, let's define it. What is good mental health? How would you recognize good mental health in someone when you saw it?
Someone who's positive and feels happy and uses positive language and
So
is
they
self-aware.
can never be sad?
No, they of course not. No, they're a human being. So someone who can regulate their emotions.
Okay.
Yeah.
So good mental health is someone who can self-regulate their emotions.
Yes.
Is it a yes or no binary, or is it a scale? Like someone who's a 7 or an 8 or a 9 at self-regulating their emotions has good mental health.
Yes. To answer your question.
Is it
yes.
some people can regulate their emotions and some people can't? Or is it
No.
some people are quite good at self-regulating their emotions on the whole?
Yes.
They might slip, but they're quite good. And some people are quite poor at it.
Yes.
Okay, so good mental health is someone who's moved along the scale of emotional self-regulation
Yes.
to you.
And also someone who doesn't use their emotions as a weapon. So I'm upset with my daughter because of a fight what we had. So I'm going to take it out on you and fight with you all day and throw things and just be a pain in the ass all day. This is not someone with good mental health.
Okay, so skillful at emotional regulation, skillful at emotional benevolence.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Anything
Yes.
else? Or that's about just some of it.
Someone who feels happy with their life most of the time.
Okay, so overall contentment.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is good mental health, yeah?
Yeah. Those are, yeah.
Sure. What about their thoughts and their beliefs?
They are.
Are they can they have good emotional regulation and maturity and benevolence, but belief that life sucks or belief that,
No.
that people are bad at heart or stuff like that?
No, you can't have, that person has bad mental health.
So then they would need
to be positive thought thinking, positive actions, positive speaking. Yeah, those things.
right. And again, would that be a binary? Like they're either positive thinking or they're not, or is it a scale? Like overall, they're quite good at positive.
Overall, they're quite good.
Okay. So out of those things, now we're not just talking about good mental health. Can someone practice emotional regulation?
Of course.
Can someone practice emotional benevolence?
Of course.
Can someone practice overall contentment with life and situations?
Yes.
Can someone practice keeping their thoughts positive and seeing the best in the world and the best in people and this kind of thing?
Yes.
Oh, so you went from I can only practice football and piano and tangible things to I can practice abstract, intangible things like good mental health. I just have to practice these 4 things.
Well, I guess defining it is always the most important thing for us when we're having a conversation. Like if I tell you, let's play ball, and I don't define what I mean by ball, then you're going to show up with a football and I'm going to have a racquetball, So like we have to define it. So we just did. And so this makes it easier to understand for me what we can practice and what we can't. So for the first one was what? Emotional regulation. We can definitely practice. I practiced this morning. I got annoyed with someone after a phone call and I had to practice my emotional regulation. I ranted for 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Was it longer? Okay, whatever. I ranted for 30 minutes and then, but then I felt better and I wasn't going to let it ruin my day and I wasn't going to let it affect our filming or my getting ready or our conversation or anything.
But the old you, who was poor at emotional self-regulation, would she have let it affect the entire day or months or week or whatever?
Oh, I would have sent a bunch of texts to the person who made me mad and continued the conversation in text.
Kept up the drama.
And then I would have either told you and ranted and then secretly been furious and just letting it eat me up and letting it ruin my day.
Right. So keeping it to half an hour and then moving on was huge progress for you.
Yes.
So you practiced emotional self-regulation and you've gotten much better at it.
Yes.
So you were down a dark road where you were always negative and dramatic and you walked it back until you're kind of positive about it.
Yes.
You still kind of get annoyed or rant or vent, so it's not disappeared, but it's higher.
I'm still annoyed by the whole situation, but I'm not letting it ruin my day. And when I think about her, I'm not hating on her or anything. Okay, maybe I said she was dumb once or twice, but the point is I have practiced to get from the person I used to be that would be infuriated and ruined probably not one day, but 2 or 3 days over the whole thing, and ranted and raved and sent support evidence from the internet to support my opinions or whatever, because that's how I would have behaved. But I had to, like you said, walk it back and like try to be as calm as possible and remember that my way is not the only way.
Yeah. And even if it lasted for 45 minutes, it would still be an improvement. But you still have improved your mental health. And do you think you could get it down to 5 minutes if you kept practicing?
Yes.
Do you think you could get it down to 30 seconds if you kept practicing?
Yes. And
do you think you could get it to a point where you're instantly grateful for the discord, drama, and contrast?
Yes. And so I also want to point out that the more I practice, the more it won't, because I wanted to defend myself and say, well, this is a topic that really matters to me. And this is like a big deal to me. But my practice needs to be so good that it doesn't matter what the topic is, like hard or easy or good or bad. Like none of that matters.
If you're practicing, presumably you're going to get all of the topics eventually.
Right.
Right. So you see, you answered your own question. You've already been practicing good mental health, at least this aspect of it. Maybe there are some other aspects that need more practice or less practice, or maybe you've nailed them all.
Well, you just said I don't have to. You said to see the positives about it, like the positivity and the discord and the positivity and the difference of opinions and the conversation. And so this is where I'm headed towards. And so by the end of the day, I will be at that point where I'm like, I'm so glad it happened. Like now we both understand each other. I see where she's coming from. I understand that she's changed for someone else, and that's fine. There's no judgment there, but I need to be aware of who I'm dealing with and the kind of person I'm talking to. So like being positive about the whole thing. See, I'm already feeling better, and I'm just doing it as an example on the episode now. Or now on the show. So by the end of the day, it'll just be like, so, but because of the practice. So I'm glad you mentioned that part of it. Thank you.
Yeah. So basically it's the cliche, how do you eat an elephant? One
bite at a time.
Right. So how do you practice good mental health? That's the elephant, right? Good mental health is the giant thing.
So
you got to break it down into bites.
One bite at a time. No?
You break it down into different skills to practice. Emotional self-regulation first, emotional benevolence second, overall contentment third, positive beliefs fourth. Maybe there's some other ones we're missing or whatever, but the point remains. And people think you can only practice physical, tangible things, but you can practice intangibles. You can practice confidence. You can practice love. You can practice positivity. You can practice good mental health. Because those are things that exist.
Yeah.
I can spot them in other people. Oh, that's some pretty good positivity over there. Oh, that's some confidence that person has. If that person is animating it, expressing it, and being it, you as a person can practice it. Yeah. You can get to their level. Plenty of people started out as some ghetto version on a topic, and they saw someone they wanted to be like, and it inspired them, and they put their mind to it, and they eventually became like that person.
True.
Yeah.
Very
you
true.
can practice anything.
Yeah.
Tangible or intangible. When I was homeless and robbed and jailed and all that shit, I was practicing a lot of negativity, cynicism, pessimism, depression, suicidal ideation, all this kind of stuff.
Right.
And just like anybody, when I'm that far down a dark road or a dark path, and I've practiced the negative for a long time, it becomes extremely difficult to turn around. Yeah. So it's very easy to stay homeless and stay depressed and stay suicidal. It's really easy to stay stuck there and to keep up that practice. It's also very easy to lie to people. Oh, everything's fine. I'm working on it. I'm getting out of it, whatever. Instead of admitting, this is a really dark place and I need to change something. I need to change something about my life.
Right.
But changing something about my life takes guts and courage and revolution, and it's crazy hard, and I have to let go of my old identity and become a new person, and oh my God. So I'd rather just lie to people and say everything's fine and I don't need to change.
It's easier sometimes. Yeah.
When you're down that path, it's always easier. The harder choice is always to turn around, backtrack, and go the opposite direction. The harder thing is always to practice the opposite and start baby stepping it back. That's a giant long journey. It's so much easier just to ride the momentum, like stay on your little depression train and head down to wherever it takes you.
Yeah. True.
It's way easier.
Yeah, very true.
But whatever. The point is, that lasted for 2.5 years. I was homeless for 2.5 years. insane, man. Until I made a decision to turn that train around. I let it all go. I gave up struggling. I gave up trying to be productive. I gave up trying to fix things. I gave up masking it or pretending something was different than it was. I just accepted reality. And I was like, if I'm going to die here on this bench of starvation because I won't lift a finger to help myself, so be it. I'm at peace with who I am. I'm fine to die of failure. I accept that I've been homeless for a long time and it's possible that I'll never discover the path out of it. And that acceptance was a game changer because the whole time I'd been practicing resistance. I'd been practicing non-acceptance.
Right.
I've been practicing judgment and hate and spite and malice. Like I was not at peace with the situation. Can you change situations that you're not at peace with? Yeah. So I turned the car around. I started practicing something different. I practiced acceptance. I practiced making peace with the situation. And this was empowering. This allowed me to change a lot of things. This turned the whole thing around. And I started practicing more positivity. I let go of more things. I was at peace with more things. I started walking through the world with a happier heart. Even though I was homeless, I didn't feel angry at anyone. I wasn't angry at society. I wasn't angry at my parents. I wasn't angry at myself. I was just at peace and accepting and loving the situation. Loving my last few days on earth is how I saw it.
Right.
Turned out a lot of great things came from that. And I had many more days on earth. But the point is, I practiced something different after 2.5 years. And that's how I got the change. And it's the same for everybody. You could have been struggling for 20 years. I don't care. Practice the intangibles, eat the elephant one bite at a time, start making progress, walk it back, baby steps, and you will get good results. Just like we said in the beginning, what happens when you practice the thing that you want?
You get it.
Yeah, you progress towards it.
You progress towards
You
it.
get some
100%.
fulfilling results.
Yes.
You get some progress towards it instead of progress towards the opposite.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, or maybe this is the first time you listen to an episode, I spent years like this, miserable and going down the negative because it was just easier. But I had to, like you said, take one bite of the elephant, one bite at a time. And I had to stop and make changes and be better. And every day that I was a little more positive and a little more happier and a little more loving, it got easier and easier and easier. And it felt better and better and better. And I just recommend it for everyone. So if you're beating yourself up, like take a baby step towards, not today. Today, I'm going to make a mistake, but I'm not going to beat myself up over it.
Or if you can't manage that, beat yourself up gently.
Yeah.
Instead of, you're the worst human alive, be like, well, you kind of sucked at that, dude. Like, it's still progress.
Yeah, it's true. Thank you. Thank you so much for answering my question and for just being a wonderful role model. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I thought you hated divorce. No?
I'm not big on it.
Then why do you keep telling us to practice? Because you're driving me crazy with the practice.
I'm in trouble.
Why is it always the answer? Why is it the answer to mental health? Like really? And for everything?
Yeah, that's fair. I get it. I get where you're coming from. But let me ask you this. Is there anything practice isn't the answer for? Let's say you want to make more money.
Yeah.
What's it going to involve? Magically just randomly making more money? What's going to be a huge factor
Do I have to answer?
in pulling this off?
Do I have to answer?
What's going to be a huge factor in pulling this off?
Practicing.
Whether you get a new job, which you're going to have to
Practice.
or you want to learn to win the lottery, manifest law of attraction with the lottery, what are you going to have to do?
I have to learn. I have to practice law of attraction.
Yeah. If you're going to murder a relative and collect the inheritance, are you going to pull it off effortlessly, or are you going
No,
to need to...
I need to practice. Okay.
I'm saying,
Yeah.
is there anything anybody wants anywhere on the planet where practice is not going to be a major component of what they're trying to do? Let's say you want to hire a contractor for your home.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to luck out and get the best contractor right off the bat, world's best contractor? You're going to know how to manage them. You're going to know how to manage the task and the job. You're going to know where to stay and how to... Or is your first contractor going to suck? Your second one's going to be better. Your third one's going to be the best. Like, are you going to need practice to get that amazing result?
I'm going to need practice to get the amazing result.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is a factor in pretty much everything.
Okay. So practice to improve everything and to get what we want.
Yeah. If NASA is struggling to land on Saturn, their first attempt fails, the other one burns up in the atmosphere, the other one crash lands or whatever. What do they need to do?
They have to practice.
Yeah, and try again and fix the mistakes until they get it.
Okay, so the reason why I think it may be like weird to me is because, well, one, nobody ever talks about practice. Like, so you mentioned the NASA thing. If I ask all those the astronauts and the people at NASA what they did to improve, they would never use the word practice.
No, they would describe it in science languages, like we checked our hypothesis and went back and found the holes in the experiment and patched those up and whatever. I don't know what they say.
Right. Yeah, I know.
But the point is, that's all just fancy language for
practice.
Yeah.
Practice.
As a kid, you try to walk, you fall down, you assess, and you
practice.
Do it again. Yeah. As a teen, you fail the math test and the math exam, you go study, you do some exercises, you test yourself and see if you can get the right answers, and then you try the exam again.
Again, yes, so you're practicing.
Yeah, you practiced until you get it. As a scientist, an adult scientist, trying to land on Saturn, it's still the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's walking or a math exam or a scientific experiment, it's all practice.
Okay.
And it all comes down to that. And if people just made peace with that, they could get the results they want. And NASA will get the results they want, because even if they don't call it that, they understand that this must be done. We have to fail the crash landing, and we have to take the data, and we have to go back, and we have to practice until we get it right. So NASA's not the one out there failing to get results. They're not the ones out there like, oh, I don't know what to do. I can't fix my crash landed thing. They don't sit there and complain. They need to practice.
Yeah, it's interesting how many people are like against the word practice or they don't use this. You would think a lot of smart people, like there's lots of gurus out there that talk about, falling down and getting up and fail harder and keep trying, but never do they use the word practice ever.
But that's what it is.
But I think it's because people associate the word practice with difficulty.
Yeah, they don't like it. They avoid it. I told you in the beginning, the practitioners, they don't want to suggest you practice. Mm-hmm. And the poor mental health people, they don't want to seek out practice. Mm-hmm. And maybe everyone ditches this episode as soon as I say practice at the beginning. Mm-hmm. But I don't care. It has to be taught. It has to be done. People need to focus on it. It needs to be embraced. The stigma has to be crushed. Like, you have to be okay with this. And you used to be. As a child, you used to love practice. Yeah. You loved practicing your video game. You loved practicing a musical instrument. You loved practice riding your bike. You loved practice swimming. You loved practice walking. You loved practice talking. You loved practice, practice, practice. And when you were a kid, you learned everything fast and you got crazy fast results, and it blew everyone's mind. Oh my God, he's learning so fast. Oh my God, how do they do it? I would have so much trouble learning that. Oh. Practice. Yeah. And then as we get older, we abandon the number one thing that worked for us and the number one thing that got results. And if you want to improve your emotional regulation or your positive thinking or your overall contentment in life, guess what you got to do?
Practice.
And you can't avoid it because you've been practicing the negative bullshit for years anyways. You're always practicing. So is practice really that difficult if we're always practicing something?
No.
The only thing that's difficult is turning around and practicing the opposite. So fine, keep practicing the easy thing, but you're going to get shitty results. Like, if I kept practicing my homeless bitterness, I'll tell you where that path leads. Yeah. Got to turn it around. Mm-hmm. Was it hard to practice? I don't know. Whatever. Like, it is what it is. There's no point slapping a label on it, because whatever it is, it has to be done. Is it hard to cut out cancer? Maybe, yes, no, I don't know. Like, call it what you want. It has to be done. Like,
yeah. All right. Well, this was really helpful to me. And Rise Rebels, I want to know what you think. Do you think it's the word practice that makes people think it's hard? Or do you think it's that people just don't want to do the actual work for practice? I'd love to know your opinions. Let's talk about it in the comments. Let's help those shy lurkers. And if you are shy and you're lurking in the comments and you watch the video and you don't want to speak out loud, come email me and share it with me in private. I'm happy to have a conversation. My email is always open. Well, thank you so much for practicing practice with me today. And thank you for your time. As always, I really appreciate you. And this lesson in particular has been super helpful to me in my changes, in my growth, and to go from the old bitter hag that I used to be to the loving, kind, and sweet, positive person you see before you. And it's all because of practice. So thank you. So I just have one more question. Do you have any final thoughts that you'd like to share with our wonderful audience?
Yeah, I usually end our episodes with kind of a banger, but I really feel like this one speaks for itself. So please practice everything that is important to you, including mental health. ASAP, no excuses. Seriously, practice with passion. If you do, every area of life will blossom for you in major ways. Peace.
And that's why our book and this podcast are called Eyes Wide Open. And after today, now you know the number one secret for great mental health. But if you watch this video right here, we will teach you the 5 lies that your therapist is telling you about anxiety.
Keep rising.